Well, we're hitting the edge of the summer. It's Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Saturday Pre-Flight. I mean, we got a lot to go with since we took a week off. That's right, folks. If you didn't notice, we took a week off for the Memorial Day weekend. I hope all of you have enjoyed the long weekend supporting our troops. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in this week. I had a great barbecue with my wife. It was fantastic. And hope to do more of that again, hopefully during the summer as the weather gets warmer. But what is going on in this week's edition? Well, first of all, tonight's main issue is we're going to be taking in two Ishiro Honda movies from the Toho Showa days. These are not Godzilla films. These are two films. In fact, one of them does have a link to Godzilla. They are great films, and people don't really talk about these too much. And they need restoration desperately on there. In our off-the-shelf segment, we'll be taking in a Mel Brooks classic who also doesn't get talked about too much, but it is a great classic based on a Russian novel. So that will be very interesting. And in fact, it's part of a Mel Brooks collection. We'll be checking in with Svengoolie with the movie of the week, and I'm going to tell you a little bit that it has nothing to do with G.I. Joe. And finally, we'll get to your comments. We'll get to see what you're thinking this week, all this. But first, let's do a little Fast Five. Well, this week on the Fast Five, we're going to end with the same story twice, and you'll understand when we're done with this. Starting with the Memorial Day box office numbers, you can take a guess what won this week. That's right, Quiet Place Part 2 grossed about almost 48 million. In fact, the numbers are still rolling in a bit, so it probably might hit more closer to 50 million on there, which is about almost equivalent to their original in Quiet Place Part 1 did the last time when this movie was released. So that's not too bad. You may ask yourself how Cruella did. Well, Cruella only came in at 21.3 million. Basically, Quiet Place beat out King Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, however you want to put it. Also brings down Demon Slayer and everything else that was released afterwards. So we're starting to see the numbers start to climb back up again. So hopefully, we start to see some good numbers on some good movies on there. And I've been hearing a lot on Quiet Place Part 2 that it happens to be a decent movie, not great, but people still direct back to the original movie itself. Well, in the Hollywood business, Viacom is in deep water if this investigation goes through. It seems like basically New York Times reported this, but Uproxx also put out an article on that basically the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is at the center of a $2 billion tax fraud scheme. This is a little complicated on there. From what I understand, Tom over at Midnight's Edge will be doing a video on this. From what we understand is basically the rights were sent overseas to the Netherlands. In other words, Viacom took advantage of tax breaks since the movie is considered from the Netherlands, not from the Netherlands, but the production company is listed as being there. So there's a lot of detail into this. We'll need to look further into it, and it not only includes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There is Transformers, SpongeBob, and a lot of other IPs on this. I mean, this is something out of Goodfellas, Casino, some of those mobster films that you've seen many times of all these crooked deals that are going on, and it's showing the dark part of Hollywood and we've been asking, how are they keeping all these shows and movies afloat when they've been failing and not making any money at all? And it looks like this is part of the scheme that they're doing. Nothing new, but hey, listen, This is happening, and this is where, you have to get in where tax laws have to be changed. Flipping over Netflix, Neil Gaiman, who happens to be the writer of several novels, and of course the Sandman series, which Netflix is doing an adaptation, has changed his opinion on the fans and is starting to criticize them over the response of basically the characters that have been given that will be in the Sandman series, as we're seeing that Death and Constantine have been either race swap or gender swap, as we're seeing on there, that John Constantine will not be in this series. That will be replaced by Joanna Constantine, played by Jenna Coleman, and Death will be played by Kirby Howell, which basically does not make any sense, as the character Death herself is a goth, and I don't think that will work out very well for this series. I mean, when you look at series, and I'm surprised Neil Gaiman is allowing this. When you create something, don't change it. Don't flip it. Don't flip the characters because you want to, appease people for diversity and stuff like that. It is the most ridiculous thing. You're cow tipping to situations where basically people, the people that are yelling for this aren't your fans. Understand that. They're not your fans, and they'll never be your fans. Here's another series that basically most people will steer away from. You're creating something, and just by looking at the casting itself with all the she, he, her, the, a, them, mismatch and bebop, boop, bop, bop, as someone put it out. It is ridiculous what has become of Hollywood. This is why we say Hollywood is dead and buried, because of the attitudes they've changed. This is why, there are people out there who are in the business and saying that the last decade of movies is just pure crap. And speaking of crap, Heavy Metal Magazine publishers, the new publishers, are starting to mock fans because the fans are disappointed with Turner's new look, which I do not like at all. In other words, they've done a Puritan and covered up Tarna from neck to toe. If you haven't seen my video on Men with the Show, do catch it. We do go into detail on this. But basically, someone in their social media, which should be fired for the way, never, ever insult your fans. Never insult the customer, because they're the ones who are buying your product. And they're the tout that they said, well, no, we don't need you. Go bye, change your underwear. I mean, that is just literally, you don't know these people online, heavy metal. You don't know who you're talking to. So basically, bye-bye. You're done. You're finished. They're going to be making a heavy metal reboot movie or a TV series. What it is, people are going to avoid that like the plague itself. And then finally, we're going to end with where we began. You're wondering, how did Cruella de Vil do on Disney+? Well, it seems, according to Screen Rant, Cruella's first weekend on there gets a 39% lower viewership than Mulan. Let me tell you, from what I've seen and what I understand, I've been touting Cruella de Vil, the movie, as Devil Wears Prada Part 2, because basically the writer on there was in the Devil Wears Prada. You're taking IPs, and like I say this in other videos, this is how they're treating these movies, these characters, intellectual properties. They're taking them, trying to change them, and make them, a backstory. Oh, poor Cruella. Cruella's mom was killed by Dalmatians. Yeah, that's right, folks. I gave a spoiler there. Cruella's mom were killed by Dalmatians, and this is why she has to kill Dalmatians and make them into coats. Figure that one out, folks. Let me tell you, that is the most ridiculous thing. I mean, the costume designs are beautiful. They'll probably might get an award for that. Plain and simple. But it's The Devil Wears Prada 2. That's all this movie is. You're putting this girl like you did with Maleficent. You know, Maleficent didn't do too well. It made money, but still, hey, what are you gonna do? You're gonna start going through the entire villain roster and give them a nice backstory? That's not what it is. Villains make the story. They have to be dark. They have to be evil. You don't give them a story that you feel sorry for them. They are the villains. This is what makes the stories up. What are you going to do? The big bad wolf? Give him a bad story that he was beaten by his parents or something like that? I mean, come on. Throw me a bone here. And that's our Fast Five for this week. You know, one thing about here on Saturday Pre-Flight, we like to bring you a good line of films that, you know, people don't really talk about. Some people haven't heard about. I mean, there is a movie this weekend on Svengoolie, which we'll be talking toward the end of this episode, that I never heard of, and I probably will see it. It's an interesting premise on this one. But generally, you know, whether it's an American film, British, South America, Japanese, I mean, I've always said, take in these films. Take in a film that you wouldn't think of seeing. I mean, you go through the Criterion Collection, which I've bought some of the titles on there, and there are some fantastic movies on there on the Criterion Collection. There's a couple there, it's like, why are you here? But I can understand why. And there are some that are not on the Criterion Collection that should be there. Tonight, we're going to be discussing two films that should be there. These are directed by the great Ishiro Honda. You know him from many of the Showa-era Godzilla films and many other films and series that he's done throughout the years. I mean, there are some great stuff that he's done, especially the Godzilla stuff. I own the Criterion Collection Showa Godzilla era, and I enjoy those movies. I take them in every once in a while. You know, I love the King Kong versus Godzilla. I was able to watch both versions of it. And yes, there is a difference between the American version and the Japanese version of Godzilla, and it has nothing to do with the ending. It has to do how the film flows. I mean, there are segments. It's similar to like back the original Godzilla, that there are two versions of Gojira, as they would say. The original Gojira, which is the Japanese on there, and then the American version, which they added Raymond Burr in, which they just edited him into scenes. They shot some scenes and edited nicely into the movie itself. And, you know, people likes the Raymond Burr version, but the original Gojira happens to be a fantastic film in itself. Now, Ishiro Honda did a couple of films that are known out there, but not really put out. And these need restoration, even though one of them had a Blu-ray restoration, and it's hard to get these days. But it needs a full detailed restoration. The second one, yeah, it's on DVD. I own the DVD itself, but it needs a restoration, and it is a great classic. The first one on the listing on here is the 1963 Mantango, aka Attack of the Mushroom People. You might say something, what? Attack of the Mushroom People? What the? Yeah, it's directed by Ishiro Honda, and it stars a who's of the Showa era movies. For example, Akira Kubo, Kumimitsu, Hishiro Kozumoi. I mean, this is a well-stocked cast. And if you've seen a Godzilla movie, you know the actor. This was written by Takeshi Kimura, did the screenplay. Shinshu Hoshi did the adaptation, with Masami Fukumishi also helped with the adaptation. The main premise is that after a yacht is damaged in a storm and stranded near a deserted island, its passengers, a psychologist, his student, a wealthy businessman, and a famous singer, and a popular writer and a sailor and the boat skipper take refuge on a fungus-covered maroon island covered, it's covered by fungus. I mean, you can tell. And basically, there's not enough food on there. It's very scarce. And they find other ships that have crash landed here, and they read in the warning in the log that do not eat the mushrooms on this island. It doesn't say why, but they're warned, do not eat the mushrooms on the island, even though the island is full of mushrooms, and the mushrooms are called Mantango. Besides the major threat on there, the character are tested as far as, there's some manipulation, some sexual tension, violence, and basically it gets to the point where, they run out of food and they become they're hungry, and there are things that are alive in the jungle, thus it calling Attack of the Mushroom People. Not to go deep into this, but it is a great film. It has great tension. It is, you got to love the B movies, and especially the horror ones, the horror mysteries. Mantango is one that takes you deep into something that just like you don't know. The tone, the way, the points where it gets quiet and the doors open and close, and it just gets you. You're just wondering what is going to happen next. And it is a phenomenal film. This is one of Ishiro Honda's greatest films that just rarely gets talked about. This one should be on a creature feature or a Svengoolie. It is worth it. Even a Mystery Science Theater 3000. I mean, this is a great film. This should be on a Criterion Collection. I mean, it is based on the 1907 story, The Voice in the Night by William Hope Hodgins. And it is a really strange tale. I mean, when you see it, and it is horrific. I'll tell you this, it is really horrific on here. This is one, it's a must. It's a must if you can get it on a Blu-ray, if you can find the Blu-ray, get it. This, like I said, this should be restored once again. Should it be a 4K? If they can get it to 4K, but they're gonna have to spend money on the prints on this, because the original prints that I've seen, they're not so great, but it is watchable, on there. I mean, they did a decent job on the Criterion Collection Godzilla. They could have spent a little bit more money and made it better, but still, it is really good. I think Arrow Video has the rights to this right now, so I'm hoping that they put out a new version of this. And once again, it is a great movie. It is a must-see. Once in a blue, it does come up on one of the late night channels, like Comet and stuff like that. But you got to catch it. As soon as you see it, run and catch it. Like I said, it is well worth the watch. Now, the second movie on this episode is also directed by Ishiro Honda. And it also has similar cast members that were in Attack of the Mushroom People and every other Showa Godzilla film. This one is harder to get. It is a DVD release. I think the last price I saw new was over $30 and rising on there. I do have this on DVD. It is also a very good movie, and it introduces a Godzilla creature that is in the Godzilla series, known as Mogera. If you know Mogera, you've seen him in a film or two, especially after the Showa films, in the more newer films within the last couple of decades. If you've seen those, it is a unusual robot creature. The film is called The Mysterians. This is a 1957 movie. Believe it, it's 57, and like I said, it is Ashore Honda. Kenji Sahara, Yumi Shirakawa, Moko Kochi star in this movie. The main premise is a giant fissure destroys an entire village near Fuji, prompting an investigation in the area. The scientists discover the source, Mogera, a giant war machine. The robot destroys a small town. Thanks to a large concentrated military effort, the robot is destroyed. The remains of the robot reveals that it is alien in origin. Not too much time later, a group of spacecraft arrive on Earth, an alien race known as the Mysterians, who basically demand that they get a 2 miles radius strip of land and the right to marry women of Earth, even though they've already kidnapped some women. Yes, that's right. Mars needs women. It's sort of familiar to some of the 1950 films that you've seen before, and some of the 60s, that where alien creatures come down to take women, so they marry them, probably so they can rebuild their race on there. And what happens with this is that basically the military and the government decide that the Mysterians become a threat to them, and they decide to fight the Mysterians. It is some great, there are some great special effects in here, especially the Mogera effects. I love the Mogera effects in this movie. The battle scenes, they're all well done. You're talking over-the-top aliens with these helmets. They look like something out of Power Rangers in a way. One thing about the Japanese, you got to love them with their space alien villains. You can go from any of the Shore era Godzilla films, Mysterians, and many other movies and TV series that they made, and their villains are always way over the top. Some of the best I think come out is Golden Bat, and also Johnny Sacco and his giant robot, which is another one that is just it's like the Hip Cats alien villains in there. They look like beatniks in there with little caps and stuff to the side with their alien overlord that basically is just hysterical. That's one that you need to put on your list on there is Johnny Sacco and his giant robot. We did talk about Giant Robo in a previous episode, which is the animated series, which is similar to Johnny Sacco, but not as animated as the characters as it is in the anime itself. Love the villains in the Giant Robo anime series. And also, I love this Johnny Sacco ones as well. And you'll love the aliens in this one as well. This is a fantastic. This is something that even the family can watch. There are not so many the films like the Attack of the Mushroom People. I would not recommend that for kids. It is a bit scary on there. But this one you can watch. You might say, so wait a minute, but it's, they're trying to marry women off on it. Yeah, but it's just basically they've captured the women. That's about it. RKO distributed this back in '59 on there. I'm not certain who has the rights on it right now currently in U.S. rights. It's probably still up in the air on there. In Germany, they called it Phantom 7000. One thing is when you look up some of these titles, whether it's an American title, if it's a Japanese on that, and you look around the world and what these movies are called, sometimes they change the name of the movie to appease the audience or to bring in the audience to the theaters to watch these movies. You could go through an entire history of the classic films and find most of them have different names. And that's one fun thing to hear, to watch. There are even current films that we have here in the U.S. that basically from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, that when they went to video, when VHS started to come in there, and the rights, sometimes they changed the name. That one movie that I remember, I think Castle of the Walking Dead or something of that nature on there. It was a movie, horror film, and I was working at a duplication house, and believe it or not, we did two separate copies of it with two separate names of the film. The original name and the newer name. For some reason, I don't know why it was, the company wanted both this way, and this is the way they were releasing it. And I think they were just trying to get both ends of the spectrum as far as people to buy these videos. Because you got to remember, back in the 80s, VHS were pretty expensive. I mean, toward the end of the 80s, getting into the 90s, the prices started to come down a bit and become more reasonable. Uh, but you look into the perspective that originally VHS used to cost about $70, $80 for one VHS tape. Yes, that's right, my younger viewers who are watching. It used to cost $70, $80. You look at today where you can spend about $7 to $10 for a Blu-ray DVD, and you hear that a VHS was much, much more. I mean, look on Amazon. Look on Amazon when they list the VHS titles on there, and you'll see that there is a higher price on a lot of these VHSs. Not that it's just classics, it's just basically some of them, they're harder to get, and some people prefer it on VHS. To give you a perfect example, let's see, I'm pulling this up as we're talking here. The Mysterians is average on the DVDs available in a $30 range. If you want the VHS version, it starts at $49 and up. And I've seen it up as high as $220. Goes to show you there. On there. And take a peek sometimes. Take a peek at around there, because you'll find some discs that basically will have some of the movies that you might want. I mean, look at this. There is a Toho pack out there which has the Mysterians, Attack of the Mushroom People, and another rarely talked about movie called Varan. And they're all in one pack, all three movies. It's DVD, starts at about $70 for a DVD, and it goes as high as well over $300 to $400 online right now. And this is just a DVD version. This is not a Blu-ray or 4K version on there. And there are others that, you could find, there are cheaper versions. I mean, if you don't want to pay a higher price and you don't mind the lower quality, I mean, the lower quality ones are not that bad. I mean, they did a good transfer on some of these, especially a lot of the Toho stuff. Like King Kong Escapes, Frankenstein Conquers the World, Varan, I think happens to be one of the lowest quality on there. DVD, on its own DVD, because it's a short film. You can get it for like $6. These are some of the movies out of Japan, and it's still, but these two itself, Attack of the Mushroom People, Mantango, and Mysterians, happen to be very good. It's well worth the watch. Mysterians, in the New York, I only can speak for the New York region and cable. I have not seen it not even on Comet. I haven't seen it on Comet. It could have been on Comet. I might have missed it, but I have not seen it on any streaming site. I haven't seen it on any channel, late night. I mean, this deems a Svengoolie also, or Creature Feature, or even a Mystery Science Theater 3000. I mean, this happens to be like one of the good ones from Michiro Honda, but also crazy as hell. Premise is crazy as hell. Now, there are segments, it's a little slow in the middle of the movie, but when it gets to the action is just typical Showa era destruction, those little scale models and stuff like that. You'll have a great time at this, watching this film. And I tell you, we have a lot more coming. We're looking at a couple of other films for from Japan on there that rarely have ever seen. We're looking at some things that you may have not heard of, and that's going to be coming. I mean, we're working on that week to week. We've already scheduled out about 5 other weeks of stuff, so we're working on that already. So we'll have that ready for you through the summer on there, so you won't miss out on anything. So enjoy these. Like I said, enjoy it. If you can get them on physical media, get it. If you have to go to the ho high seas to get it, go right ahead. I don't condone the high seas, but sometimes if you can't get it at a great price on there, I mean, this should tell the studios, if I want this, I should be able to get it. They spend the money on all these crazy movies, like we discussed in the opening, like Cruella. Why did we have a Cruella de Vil film that almost sounds like The Devil Wears Prada? Did we need a Cruella film of that nature? There are a lot of films out there that's like, why do we need this? Why do we need that? I mean, they're horrible films. I mean, there is a writer who went on YouTube, and I forgot the site name, and he says most of the films within the last decade or so are crap because they're not well written, they're not well produced, they're not, let's put it this way. How many films can you tell that it ends with a gigantic explosion, especially the action stuff? He says that this is not an action film. I mean, a good action movie. That every one of them has to end the same way with a big explosion on there. I mean, yeah, I could tout a lot of great films out there that are really good and people don't really talk about. There's a couple of Jason Statham movies that are out there, like Homefront, which is very good on there. There's some Guy Ritchie movies that are out as well that people don't talk about on there as well. There was a Midnight's Edge back on about 2 days ago. They had Chris Gore, who was formerly with G4 Attack of the Show. And he says people don't talk about the independent films, the small independent films. And I consider Mysterians and Attack of the Mushroom People a small independent film because even though it had a good release at the time period, it's faltered off. It's faltered off, and this is something that will be great in an art house setting. But what Chris Gore was saying is that you should take in some of the independent films, and I agree with him. There's a lot of great independent films out there that are not talked about a lot. There's a movie called The Proposition, great film, and it's about think of Australia at the point where they were going from prison colony to becoming an actual country. And there was a time period in there that they went through their own version of the Old West to try to clean up all the prisoners that were there. They wanted to take the country back from being a prison colony and to become a country in itself. And this is one of the stories. It's fictional, but basically it is a great story of that period, and it's well done. It's well shot. And I saw it at the Angelica Theater, and I always recommend, if you're here in New York City, take in the art houses in New York City. There are not too many of these left. New York has a robust amount of art house theaters. We have them all over the city. You could check them out. They're not in the outer boroughs. There's maybe one or two in the outer boroughs, but mostly they're in Manhattan. They're mostly downtown on there. Angelica, the Essex, all those on there. 8th Street Playhouse is no longer around. That was torn down years ago. If you ever hear about the 8th Street Playhouse, that's where Rocky Horror Picture Show was. Rocky Horror Picture Show has been moved to a theater on 2nd Avenue in the teens, I believe. There's a theater out there that's playing it. Rocky Horror has been moved several times. The last time I watched Rocky Horror Picture Show was a place on, 52nd and 3rd Avenue. There was a theater there in a little hole in the wall. That was the last place that I saw it at. But like I said, take in the classics, take in the independent, films because, hey, listen, these new films are, and it's true. Chris Gore is right. They need their love too, and that other screenwriter, the newer films are crap. We're already hearing that Fast and the Furious 9 is horrible. That it's the worst of all the Fast and the Furious, and it hasn't been released here in the U.S. How the hell did China get to see it several weeks earlier than the United States? This is an American film. Why is China seeing it first? and see, this is the reason why we need to stop bending the knee to China. They're not our friends. They don't, the government doesn't like us. They don't like our films. They don't like, I'm not speaking for the people. I know there are those who might like our films. But we don't need to edit them. We don't need to change the posters. We don't need to do anything to these films. We need to put them out the way they were meant to be. Let the directors run the show. Studios, you need to stop hovering over them and changing the films. This is why a lot of these films have failed. Touting like Zack Snyder's Justice League. Look at the major differences between the two, even though the movie was too long. And Zack Snyder's not the greatest cinematographer, and I'll tell you that for a fact. Director, he's okay, but he's got to stay behind the camera. Not using the camera, as they say. If you haven't seen Army of the Dead yet, which is it's terrible. It's terrible. I'm hoping and praying for Twilight of the Dead by the Romero family. Hopefully we'll get that soon. So that's our main premise for this week, and let's move on to what's on my video shelf this week. Well, on my Off My Shelf segment this week, I bring you the ultimate box set, the Mel Brooks box set. But we're going to discuss several of the movies on different episodes of Saturday Pre-Flight. On tonight's episode, we are going to discuss a rarely talked about Mel Brooks movie. In fact, it is one of his earliest films with a great cast and a great storyline based on a classic story from Russia. It is called The 12 Chairs. It stars Ron Moody, Frank Langella, Dom DeLuise, and of course Mel Brooks is in this with a very small role as Tikhon. The basis of it's put this premise in. It's 1927 Soviet Union. Ron Moody plays Vovanovov, an impoverished aristocrat from the Imperial Russia days. But now, because now the Bolsheviks took over communism, now he's working as a local bureaucrat. He is summoned to the deathbed of his mother-in-law, which she reveals that she's kept some of the jewels that the Bolsheviks didn't get and sewn it into one of 12 of the dining chairs. But before mentioning that to her son-in-law, she mentions it into a confession to a Russian Orthodox priest, played by Dom DeLuise, and it becomes a run around Russia to find these chairs. And Ron Moody is joined by a sort of con man, played by Frank Langella, who plays Bender, Ostap Bender, not that Bender, but he plays a con man that he's looking for these jewels with Ron Moody. This is a fun romp on a story that was written many decades earlier, and it is a great performance by Langella and Moody. And I'll tell you, DeLuise does a fantastic job. He almost steals the show. And of course, Mel Brooks is in it for just a little bit of time. And, you could see the early days of the genius of Mel Brooks in this movie. Because basically, this is the starting point. You have to think about it. Mel Brooks was on television, with a lot of other comedians. And then now branching off to make movies. And to do this, I mean, this is just fantastic. I mean, the original story was called The 12 Chairs by Elof and Petrov. And you can look this up. It's a great novel. I mean, it's a little bit longer in the novel. It's a little long-winded on there, but it is great humor, sometimes a little dark, or sometimes really hysterical at certain points. I mean, there are some great scenes in this movie, and I don't want to give those out and tell you what those are. You need to go see this. See, that's the problem. Most people, you know the producers, you know History of the World, you know Blazing Saddles, you know Young Frankenstein, and people can quote stuff from it. I mean, there's not a lot of quotable stuff on here. There is about 3 scenes that you can do on here, including one piece at the end, which is excellent. It's excellently done, the ending of this movie. But this is one that should be cherished, because basically it is a great tale. You don't hear great tales that come out into movies that are turned into comedies, but this happens to be one of them. I got this on Blu-ray. I would suggest it's kind of hard to find it on its own. There are DVD versions of it. They did a Blu-ray upgrade. The upgrade is decent on there. It is pretty good. It's not a full screen restoration on there. It basically is cut off to 4.3, but it's worth seeing. It is really worth seeing. Your best bet is to get the Mel Brooks collection. The price is increasing. I've seen anywhere. I myself paid $30. It is now $50 plus. I've seen it as high as $250 for this collection. It contains the best of, with the only exception of the producers is not on this box set, which I was surprised. But you could buy the producers separately for a decent price. But if you're looking for all these movies together, this is the box set to have. And we'll be discussing other movies from this box set that are not talked about much. There is one other, and I'll tell you this. In this movie, the next one we'll talk about, and in fact it's coming up next week, it only has one word in the entire film. And you can guess what movie that is if you are a fan of Mel Brooks. So, 12 Chairs, go out, grab it. I've not seen it really online on streaming, really. I think you should be able to rent it. But like I said, go out and get it. Buy physical media. I mean, that's the best thing to do, because some of these titles, they'll be hard to get because of some of the plot lines, some of the issues that are in the movie, some things they might say. People get offended by things of the old days, which they shouldn't be. And I always keep harking back onto Disney to release Song of the South, because basically people say, well, it's racist. I said, did you watch the movie? Did you really watch the movie? I just watched the movie recently within the last couple of months, and not to what they say. It happens to be a good movie about tales from Africa that has been passed on from generation to generation. And hey, listen, this is what the whole story is. It's talking about a story, and that's what all these are stories. People, there are a small group of people that get offended by these stories. Don't listen to them. Go and watch it yourself. You might enjoy it. You might hate it. But at least you took the chance to watch it. And that's the one thing they don't want you to do. Because basically they want to keep everything censored. Because they don't like it doesn't mean you're not going to like it. You may enjoy it. It may become part of your collection on there. So that's our off-the-shelf segment this week. Well, let's take this moment in this episode of Pre-Flight to hear from the important person, you, the viewers. That's right, you, the viewers. We're here to see what you're asking or your comments for the last couple of episodes here on Saturday Pre-Flight and Man with the Show. So let's start off with Christopher Barker. Superman and Lois will suck just as bad as the others. Uh, well, the thing about it is, I haven't given up on it yet. So far, it's held my interest. Yes, it has dropped in the ratings, and that's because CW really messed up. They should have allowed and I mentioned this on Man with the Show, they should have allowed the production to complete, even though we had the COVID situation and they went through a couple things and they had to shut down for a bit. They should have completed the project and then released it completely. Not take that break in between and throw in a low viewer program as Supergirl to drive away your viewers. And now when the show comes back, it's at a low ratings right now. I haven't looked at the current ratings, and I haven't looked at the current episodes. I just binged 2 episodes back to back. And what has happened, it looks good. I don't want to give any spoilers here, but so far, I like what's happening. There are a couple little minor things in between, but I'm putting that aside for now. Let's see what happens. Thank you again, Christopher. Jalen Mapp asks, why did they have to put the Flintstones put it in the Flintstones time slot? We're talking about the Addams family. Well, the thing is, Jalen, there was going to be changes happening. And I think what MeTV saw was that they saw a better result of the Flintstones being on Sunday. And right next to it is the Jetsons, which is one of the best announcements to come out that we just put up, that Jersey Matters has been moved in their time slot to the early part in the New York, New Jersey area. So we're able to see the Jetsons. And I've confirmed this because I watched an episode this past week. And that is a great thing. I know you're unhappy that it's on there, and MeTV is going to be adding more and more shows to the lineup. And we've added Pink Panther, we've added the Jetsons. They're going to be adding a lot more cartoons. Because basically cartoons is bringing another group of watchers to this channel. Like I said, MeTV is a growing channel. It's classic television, but still, people are loving this. They're loving the Saturday morning cartoons back. I mean, there are YouTubers out there that do Saturday morning spots where they discuss TV shows that were on the Saturday morning slots. I mean, there is a one group that they sometimes they have guests on their programming. Thank you again, Jalen Mapp. The Wacko Man says, I've already recorded the first episode before you guys. Saying about the Jetsons as well. Wacko Man guy, thanks for commenting there. Johnny Hernandez, one of our faves, says it twice. He goes, dealing with the Jetsons being in the New York City area. Nice. But then also mentions, I love the Pink Panther, but if they add Thundercats, it'll be the best. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice. You know that right now Hulu is running, which is part of Disney, is running the episodes right now. Hard to say if they'll get Thundercats. Remember, there are decades of Saturday morning cartoons on the burner. And basically, MeTV has a selection of a lot of them. I said this once before. I believe the next they have to go into this direction is to get like the Casper stuff, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Heckle and Jekyll, Mighty Mouse, all those old ones on there before they're going to have to show those type of cartoons first, I believe, before they really start to get into the next decade. The 60s and 70s, they're going to go through all those cartoons. Then you can get into the 80s. Now that could change because they do have a new channel that they are testing, MeTV Plus. They could end up putting it on MeTV Plus. That would be a good thing. Now, another person below commented below Johnny Hernandez and said Deviants, Transformers, and G.I. Joe. Understand with Transformers and G.I. Joe, one, Transformers you can watch free right now. Okay, you can watch that on Tubi TV. G.I. Joe is on YouTube. Right now they're doing Renegades, but they've been, the company that holds the rights to G.I. Joe has been playing them for free online on YouTube on a daily basis. Like I said, Renegades is now running. Before they were running the original G.I. Joe series 24/7. Now they're doing Renegades. They might switch back and forth. All right? Thank you all for commenting on there. Oh, this one's a good one. DCLX2. Yes, but also no. That's toward the eBay ban of anime, manga, and hentai. We're probably going to be doing another video just to really clarify on this. Most people think, well, it's just the adult stuff. It's really the adult stuff that they're going to be banning. Yes, you are correct. But what do they deem adult? See, that is where it becomes a very fine line, because they could call any anime adult oriented, even Dragon Ball Z. See, you have to remember, it is what they consider the content. And right now, they're considering anything that is what they call R18, which is considered M, mature, on there. And that's a whole line of product. Now, how far eBay is going to do on this, it's hard to say. We're already in June. We'll probably know in the next couple of weeks what will happen. Well, that's a short comments line this week. We went through the holidays, and I guess, one thing about going through the summer holiday months and, of course, the Christmas time period, it is a slow period for YouTube on there. I mean, some of the big YouTubers still get views. The smaller channels, not so much, but I think that's basically because a lot of people do their holiday things. In fact, that's why we were off for the Memorial Day weekend. We didn't come back until Wednesday because we knew, and it did happen, a lot of people generally go do the things they're supposed to do. And like I said, go out, get into the barbecue. And that's what we did. We had a barbecue. Me and my wife, we enjoyed it. We sat there, beers, sat back. Actually, the weather turned out to be a lot warmer than we anticipated because it was cold. We had the heat on over the weekend. So, the weather was with us there. So once again, thank you for all of you who have commented and watched this program constantly week to week. I also want to say welcome back to our viewers on Parler. We're fully back on Parler again now that it is fully operational again. Thank God for that, because that's a lot of viewers on that end of the scope. We have about 1,100 subscribers on just Parler alone. So that should tell you how engaging the channel is on certain social media platforms. So once again, thank you to all of you, and welcome back, Parler. So we're getting to the end of the show, but we've forgotten something. Yes, that's right, we've forgotten. It's the weekend, and of course, what do we get on the weekend? Svengoolie, that's right. So what is the movie this weekend? Let me tell you something. I don't think I've seen this one.
This week on Svengoolie, more metv stars than you can shake a snake at. Slither over to the cult of the Cobra.
One by one, you will die!
On the next Svengoolie.
Sure, it's funny, unless it's true.
Saturday night on metv.
That's right. The 1955 Cult of the Cobra. Nothing to do with G.I. Joe. Starring Faith Domier, Richard Long, and Marshall Thompson. Directed by Francis D. Lyon. I have never seen this one. This is one of these. And like I said, always try something new that you've never seen before because you might enjoy it. I mean, a premise of this about a woman who has the power to transfer herself into a cobra. Last time I saw someone turn themselves into a cobra, I think it was Conan the Barbarian. In Conan the Barbarian, where James Earl Jones turned himself into a big snake. So this will be interesting to watch from a 1955 point of view on special effects to see how this was done. I tried looking up the special effects on that. I couldn't get that at this time period. But hey, listen, we'll see how this turns out. So that's Cult of the Cobra, Saturday night on Svengoolie, 8 p.m. Eastern on your local metv channel. If you do not have metv, do go to metv.com to find out where in the world can I get Svengoolie? Yeah, basically that's where you could find out where the closest network is to you. If you want to use an antenna, if it's not on your cable outlet, and be sure to check with your cable outlet. Tell them you want MeTV. It is a great channel. It brings you great classics on there. I mean, I was watching Mannix one morning. I was up early in the morning and Mannix was on. Such a great show. Such a great detective show. So we've reached the end of this great extravaganza. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment freely on all of our social media platforms. We will be here every Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, on your local social media, here on YouTube, and on Minds.com at 10 p.m. Later on ODYSEE and all of our other social media platforms, BitChute, ODYSEE, and so on and so on and so on. So have an enjoyable weekend. Take in some Saturday morning cartoons. Relax during the day. Maybe get out for some air and come back into the evening for some sci-fi Saturday night with some Svengoolie and get in some Star Trek, Night Stalker, and all the rest of the great programming they show on MeTV on a Saturday night. And be sure to take in the early morning cartoons on MeTV with the Flintstones and the Jetsons in the 10 to noon time slot on there. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I mean, this is so great that, one thing about when we do new shows here, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's a flop. And I'll tell you from today, Saturday Pre-Flight is a hit right now. It is doing very well, especially on certain social media platforms. So let's keep it up, because right now we are less than 30 subscribers away from reaching 400 subscribers, or 130 to go to reach the 500, the halfway point to get us to full monetization. So hit that subscription and be sure to share this with your friends. Thank you again. We will check you on the rebound. Bye-bye now.
Oh, and before we go, don't forget to check out our new Teespring shop, our Q2Cast shop, and at our new address, Shop Q2Cast, where you could check out our new anime shirts that we have out. Anime shirts, pillows, just in time for the spring and summer. Go check them out. And we have some of our classics still available there from our TV shows. And we have more t-shirts on the way. We're redesigning the Q2Cast shop, our merch shop. We have a lot more coming. So do check us out. That's shopq2cast.com. One more time, that's shopq2cast.com. It is up and available just for you. And remember, all proceeds go to help this channel.